Thank you. I don't know who that person was. That person's pretty cool. And I'll tell you how funny it is. The world is small. I know the gentleman here taking the photos as well. We used to work together at the Puget Sound Blood Center. And I remember when you first started dabbling in photography, so it's awesome that we should team up again. So I'm gonna get the book commercial out the way first, and then we're gonna roll, because they all might be full like me, and I don't want you to fall asleep. I do have some copies of Bold, Brave, and Courageous in the back. They're $12, I'll sign them for you. And I will tell you that even though I wrote it for teen girls, I've had a lot of women tell me there's really no age limit on the message. That's who I chose to write to, but what's covered is really for anyone. So I encourage you, if you want to check it out. And we're gonna roll from there. So, and I'll put this one back, because I think I have like 9 left, so I'll put it back. So we are the Berry family. I know we have various last names, you know, we've got married, things like that, but we are the Berry family. And I want to talk about the importance of leaving a legacy. And thank you, Malika. As you hear me talk, you would have thought that the two of us got together, because where she wrapped up her presentation, there's going to be a little bit of a surprise at the end of mine that is a great tie into that. So God always does that. That's awesome. And she says she's not family, but we just connected very closely at the beginning. So I've decided that you are my new cousin. We'll stay in contact. So definition of legacy. Merriam-Webster defines legacy as something transmitted by or received from an ancestor or predecessor or anything from the past. So basically, leaving a legacy means that you're doing something, you've said something, you've left something that's meaningful enough to be passed down. So my translation that I like to think of, if you died, would anyone miss you? I submit to you today that if you died and nobody cared, no one missed the fact that you were gone, you didn't do your job here on earth. Your life should mean something to somebody. And I can't remember who said it right now, but there's someone very important who said, folks may forget what you did and what you said, but they're gonna remember how you made them feel. So every one of us should have a legacy that we can leave. And it may not be that our name is in lights and that we're a celebrity, but all of us have something that's important enough that God has placed within us that we should share and leave for those who come after us. So how am I leaving a legacy? I've been blessed to be able to leave an international legacy in my local community, and what I feel is the most important is in your family. Because it would mean nothing if I traveled all over the country and internationally talking to other people, but there wasn't a legacy left in my own home. So I'm going to share a little bit of my journey with you, and then we'll go from there. So internationally, the pictures that you see here are back in 2012. I had a Japanese intern when I was with the Seattle Sonics, and his one semester with me was enough for him to go back and become a consultant for the Japanese national basketball team. So a year after the tsunami happened, before then, he actually traveled to Oklahoma, sat in my living room, pulled out his flash drive, gave us a whole presentation. I had no idea how he was gonna pull off the project that he was doing, but he pulled it off. So what you see on this side, see my little laser working? The community relations and all the things that our pro teams do here in the States are not something that's done overseas. But after the tsunami, they had a cultural shift and they felt like it was important to worry about our neighbor. So that's me in the front of the room, and the room was filled with 50 mostly Japanese men. There may have been one woman in the audience. And it filled up so quickly I had to do 2 of them, and all of them were trying to learn how do we create a community relations program. And they weren't just in pro sports, but college, intramural, high school, and the legacy from that is the picture next to that. I talked to Hiroyuki a couple months ago, and he told me that 4 of their pro basketball teams, after having had representatives at the workshop, have since started their own community relations program. So they're going and they're giving back, so that's something that's exciting. These pictures here are from October. I had the chance to travel to Gaborone, Botswana, and it's from a relationship that I know some people think social media is negative, but a lady that had connected with me 3 years ago, and she said, one day we need to do something together. So I had the chance to travel and take my book and present to 128 girls at the Gaborone International School. And our joke is that we don't think we can get 20 American kids to sit in a room and sit still. These 128 girls were between the ages of 10 and 17 in a hot room in sub-Saharan Africa with no air conditioning. The two doors were open, but all they did was blow in like dragon fire hot air. So I counted a blessing to go there, and the small group, those are girls who came back one-on-one afterwards, and with tears in their eyes, they said, thank you for coming all the way from America to inspire us. So I want to encourage everyone, whatever you have, whatever gift, there's someone who needs what you have. So nationally, I've get the chance to travel and do different youth conferences and women's conferences, and I used to think I didn't have a story. Because I thought, well, my story's not that important because I don't have the story about, how I was once on drugs and I got delivered from drugs and I was a prostitute and all of that. But my story is still something worth sharing. So if anyone out there, I don't want you to discount your story because your story has made you who you are and there's someone who needs to hear it. In my local community, we talked about mentoring girls. The young lady in the picture far over here, I met her when she was 12 years old. She started off as a babysitter. And then my husband trained her in basketball. That's a picture of us after her college basketball game a couple weeks ago. She's a freshman and got a full ride scholarship. And if you knew her family life, there's no way she should be where she is. And she's amazing. And then the picture next to it is just this past week. I had an entire school district purchase 400 copies of my book because they placed one in the hands of every single 5th through 12th grade girl in the district. And then they contracted me to come and do a workshop for the middle school girls one day for 4 hours and the next day for all their high school girls. And I share these things not to brag, but it's just little me. It's just little me. There are people who walk around in Oklahoma City and they're like, she's this and she's that. But I'm just me, and I just use what God has given me to share, and I just want to make sure that you continue to hear that. This is a video. We're going to see if it will play. I just want to share a little bit about the No Fear Ladies Conference. And No Fear is an acronym that God gave me 4 years ago. It stands for Never Let Anyone Tell You What You Cannot Do. Open your mind to the possibility of your greatness. Fight for what you want. Expose yourself to new things. Act on opportunities to launch yourself and reach forward. So this is just a little recap of the most recent one. It's held every August. And maybe I'll move it out of Oklahoma City one year and get it home.
Hi, I'm Mary Min.
My name is Anisha Sharp.
I'm Cindy Munson.
My name is Madonna Braddock.
I'm the state representative for House District 85.
Author, speaker, minister.
Co-founder of Ninja Sushi. I have no fear.
How much?
So I'm here with Nikki Nice. She is one of the amazing co-hosts of the Open Mic radio show. And she is one of our inaugural recipients of the No Fear Lady Award here at the Reach Forward No Fear Ladies Conference. And just excited to present it to her. She's an amazing, dynamic member of our community, a leader, and so much fun too. Hey, she's not sober. I never do anything too ordinary. Actually, no one knows this except for myself, the event planner, my husband. But there is actually a second recipient of the No Fear Lady Award. Because I always want to recognize not only someone that's kind of known in the community, but we have many unsung heroes amongst us that are also exemplifying who the No Fear Lady is. So Sabrina Leroy is an
sitting up. I have a lot of ideas, a lot of things that I know God's called me to do, and this conference just really was confirmational for me. So I'm so glad that I did it.
Yeah, you know what? I put value in words, and all the words that were spoken are building words. I traveled to this conference from Houston, so that tells you how much I value the conference, and I always value meeting people, and I value supporting friends. So I had a great time. Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Well, I enjoyed it. I really got a lot out of the session where she was talking about you have to break up the ground in yourself first, so then that way you can plant the seed for your business to bring forward. So I'm excited, I'm inspired, and I look forward to reaching forward next year.
All right.
Ready to be back.
One of the things that I got out of it was persistence is the key. Now I know that sounds like a cliche, but I know that that stuck to me the most because I know that I had some trials and tribulations, and I know that just having that kind of mentality, just tell yourself that persistence is the key, just to keep going up.
I love this New Fair Conference. I've been coming since it started. I leave here feeling so encouraged and excited to go out and do great things in the world and to stick with Wyjuana and show her my support for everything she does. She's such an amazing woman, and I can't wait to come back each and every year.
So we just wrapped up the 4th annual No Fear Ladies Conference, and it was epic. Largest turnout for women, girls, vendors, everybody. Powerful messages. And if you didn't make it this year, we will have it next year. And we want you to be there. What you don't want to miss, there is somebody that can address pretty much everybody in any situation. And me, I like to keep it a little different every year. So format basically the same, but I always have a few surprises out there. We always like to have a good combination of knowledge and fun. So make sure if you missed it this year, don't miss it. Be here next year.
Okay, so the No Fear Ladies Conference. And yes, I'm wearing the same dress, but since I'm here in Seattle, not Oklahoma, that was the best time to pull it out one more time. Gotta get your money's worth. So, we'll move on past that. A legacy in the home. And this is where we're gonna drive the message home. You see my beautiful family on one side, and it's a whole family, and I wanna thank, and I'm gonna embarrass her, I wanna thank my oldest daughter, Jasmine. I call her my bonus daughter, and blended families aren't always easy, but she has loved me since the very beginning. Her mother has been welcoming, and I just wanna honor her for that, allowing me to be in her life since she was 5 years old, and asking me was I gonna be her auntie when I and her dad got married. And so thank you, Jazz, and I love you so much. Thank you for being the young lady you are. And the picture next to that, family tradition. It's so important to make memories in your home. My husband was reading an article, and it found that on average, most men only spend 51 minutes per day. No, not 51 minutes. It was crazy, like 51 seconds talking to their children each day. And it's because it's like, get up, put your clothes on, time to go, do your homework, go to bed. And it's like, wow, if that's all you're getting is seconds, then you're physically there, but you're not really pouring into them. So this picture on the side, that's my son who's not here, my daughter when they're younger. I started letting them bake their own Cornish hens for Thanksgiving. So we have a little friendly family competition to see who's gonna win, and we laugh because we always think that you need a whole bunch of spice and a bunch of different colors. And the first year, the one in the picture that looks white with nothing on it actually ended up having the best flavor. I think she just used like garlic powder and salt or something like that, but it was excellent. But it's so important to make sure we don't go out into the world and building up everybody else, and we're not making memories and pouring into our children at home. And a school teacher for me in Houston brought that message home. I was there for work, and we were talking, and I said, this was a couple years ago, I said, my daughter's having a little bit of trouble with reading and math, and we're doing some things, and she said, well, I feel like we're connecting the spirit. I'm gonna just let you know. If you are traveling all over the country, pouring into other people's daughters, and yours is struggling, I have a problem with that. She looked me right in my eyes and said, I have a problem with that, because that is your first job. So when you get home, I expect you to do something about that. I sat up straight, I said, yes, ma'am, and we got right on the job, and you hear the results of it today. But a legacy in the home is where we start. And that legacy in the home builds out to what we have in this room tonight. If there wasn't something going on in the home, in all of our individual families, we wouldn't have what it takes to come together. And so I feel like that's the most important out of everything that we do. So how can you leave a legacy? You might say, I don't speak, I'm not an author, I'm not this or that. Well, think outside of yourself. Everything that you have, every gift and talent that you have, it's not just for you. In fact, it's usually for someone else, because someone needs to hear what you're saying, they need to hear your story. Use your gifts and talents to help others. It may not be something that's going to be on a public stage, but there's something you can do. You can donate, you can give your time. There's always something you can do to help others. Support a cause that you're passionate about. You know, we all have something that's near and dear to us, whether it's cancer or, the homeless, children, foster kids, folks who are incarcerated. Dig deep inside yourself and find what you're passionate about, because the other thing is, if you're passionate about it, you don't have to pull teeth to do it. It just naturally flows out of you because you enjoy it. So that's some things to think about how we can all leave a legacy. And so, the Berry family, I am a history buff, particularly my own family history. And we all know Ancestry.com, but if you don't know, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has the largest genealogy database in the world, and it's free to use it. So all you need to do is go to familylegacy.org, and I started doing some research, and I got to the parents of my great-grandparents. So the parents of Margie Berry and Albert Berry. And Albert, it was Albert Berry's parents, actually. So my great-grandfather. His father's name was Robert Berry. It gets confusing in our family. There's a lot of people named Robert. There's a lot of Alberts. And I found them on this 1880 census. And you can't read, it's in here. If you're up close, you can see it. I found their names. And so I started going back from there. And what kept sticking out to my mind is Braggs, Lowndes, Alabama, United States. So Lowndes is the county, but I kept wondering, what is Braggs? So I started doing research, and it turns out that Braggs was a plantation. And then I found this pencil sketch drawing of Braggs plantation. And what that tells me, if we had relatives still living there in 1880, and also I found them on an 1870 census, and even Robert Berry on an 1866 Alabama-only census, chances are, again, someone else can pick up the research, it may be that that's where our family members may have been enslaved and they just continue to live there. And so Bragg's plantation was owned by John Bragg. And I found, you can look up Alabama slaveholding families. He had 16 slaves in 1850, and by 1860, I guess his wealth was built up because he was a judge. He had 88 slaves. And where this is about to come home, you told us about rewriting our stories, correct? John Bragg was the brother of Braxton Bragg, and Braxton Bragg was a very influential Confederate soldier who Fort Bragg in North Carolina is named after. So I kept looking, and family, we need to have a family reunion here, because this is the Bragg home on the Bragg plantation in Alabama, and it's a National Historical Site. It's called the Bragg Mitchell home because the Mitchell family bought it from the Braggs. Because of the notoriety of the Confederate soldier Braxton Bragg, it says the Union soldiers were constantly attacking their home because they knew who lived there and they knew he was the brother. So they were constantly attacking and burning it down. And the only reason that John Bragg was spared is because his wife and his children begged for his life. So he sold the house, but this home is still in existence, and I think we need to plan a family reunion there because this very well could be where our family all came from. So rewriting our stories, think about what I just said. Our cousin Billy, Lieutenant Colonel William Hall, who is not here today, now has a training center named after him at Fort Bragg, which is named after a Confederate soldier whose brother owned the plantation that our family is likely to have come from. So talk about rewriting your story. We have an amazing legacy in this very family, that we can walk on Fort Bragg and hold our heads up with pride because our own Lieutenant Colonel is sitting because of his honor and his service with the Interoperability Training Center named after him just last year in 2016. So that was really exciting to me about not only leaving a legacy yourselves, but when you do what's right, you use your gifts, you give selflessly, that it'll turn the circle around. So I just wanted to share that little bit of information. And again, don't forget it's familylegacy.org. It's owned by the Mormon Church, and they have a huge database that actually you can go back into more detail than even you can with Ancestry.com. So finally, I just want to encourage everyone, as we continue in 2018, towards 2018, let us remember of building the importance of building a legacy everywhere you go in everything you do. On your job, when you travel, but most importantly, in your home. Never forget, if you died today, what is it that we would miss about you? There should be something that we would remember about you, that we would, that would be a void, because you should leave a legacy, something worth passing down, something worth hearing about, a story worth sharing. Even being in my great aunt's house today, I remembered running down the halls as a little kid. She had some of the same pictures up. We played in the backyard. I had lots of memories of my grandmother as she was fixing me breakfast. My grandmother made a breakfast at 5 a.m., even though church started at 8. And she insisted that you eat it. The toast was pre-made and left to heat in the oven, the grits, eggs, everything. And when she prayed a prayer, she covered the entire world, the sick, feeble-minded, less fortunate, everywhere. And Father God, when we've done all we can do, and you call our name, I pray that we've been faithful, that you say, well done, my good and faithful servant. And that legacy was left in me, and my daughter, who's never even had the chance to meet her, has it in her. She could pray a powerful prayer for you when she was 3 years old. But there's one problem with her prayer. Her prayer was a double-edged sword. It thanked God for you, and it told on you at the same time. She would pray like, Father God, thank you for my mom, thank you for my dad, thank you for giving me a home, and God, today my mommy was mean to me. And God, today my daddy spanked me. And so her prayer you had to watch because it was for you and against you all at the same time. But Tavia, who is named after Gustavia, and I believe my grandmother knows that, the day before she passed, I whispered in her ear, and I told her if I ever have a daughter, I will name her Tavia. And I remember her smiling, and it meant so much to me. And Tavia has her old soul. And so legacy is even in the bloodline. It's a spiritual thing. So let's keep in mind what we're passing on. We want to pass on what's good and what allows people to grow. So let's just keep that in mind as we go into 2018. And that's it. I'll just put up some fun photos. Any questions? I know it's not that formal, and I love you guys so much. I was more nervous about speaking to my family than strangers. Sometimes that's a little bit tougher. So follow me. I love you guys. Wyjuana.com. And all of you for that.